Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into the incredible story of the Mughal Empire. I mean, think about it. An empire built on gunpowder and poetry, one that completely dominated India for over 300 years with its raw military power and just, well, dazzling culture. It's an amazing story. So, how did gunpowder and poetry come together to build one of the world's richest empires? It sounds like a really weird mix, doesn't it? Gunpowder and poetry. But believe it or not, for more than 300 years, that's exactly what happened. A dynasty started by a warrior who also happened to be a poet used this very blend of brute force and incredible cultural artistry to create something massive, something that would change the Indian subcontinent forever. And it all starts with this guy, a warrior poet from Central Asia named Babar. And when I say he had a pedigree, I mean it. He was descended from two of the most fearsome conquerors in history, Genghis Khan and Tamerlane. So yeah, ambition was kind of in his blood. His own little kingdom back in Central Asia was on shaky ground, so he did what any ambitious conqueror would do. He looked south towards the legendary wealth of India. So first up, the gunpowder conquest. You've got to ask yourself, how does one guy even begin to conquer a subcontinent? Well, it all kicks off with one single massive battle. A battle where a new piece of tech comes in and just completely changes the game. All right, so you're going to hear this term a lot when people talk about the Mughals' gunpowder empire. It's exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about a state that uses firearms and artillery to just roll over its enemies. I mean, think about it. While everyone else is still relying on swords and horses, the Mughals show up with cannons. It's a huge, almost unfair advantage, and they used it masterfully right from the get-go. Okay, let's look at the battle that started it all, the First Battle of Panipat in 1526. And just look at this matchup. It's wild. On one side, you have the Sultan of Delhi, Ibrahim Lodi. He's got a huge army, and he's got war elephants. I mean, come on, war elephants. Then there's Babar, who is completely, totally outnumbered. It should have been a slaughter. But Babar had that secret weapon. Field artillery. Now, the cannons weren't just deadly, they were loud. The noise completely freaked out Lodi's elephants. They panicked, turned around, and started trampling their own army. In all that chaos, Babar's small, disciplined force just swept in. Boom, stunning victory. The Delhi Sultanate collapses, and right there, in that moment, the Mughal Empire is born. All right, so we've covered the conquest. But winning the battle is one thing. Actually building an empire that lasts, that's a whole other ballgame. And this is where Babar's successors, the great Mughals, come in. These guys oversaw an absolute golden age. We're talking art, architecture, and culture on a level that was just mind-blowing. So this era is really defined by four incredible rulers, one after the other. First, you've got Akbar the Great. He's the one who really expands the empire, but, crucially, also brings in this amazing policy of religious tolerance. Then his son, Jahangir, takes over. He was a huge art lover, and under him, Mughal painting just hits its absolute peak. After him comes Shah Jahan. You'll know him. He's the great builder, the guy who gave us the Taj Mahal. And finally, Aurangzeb, who takes the empire and expands it to its largest size ever. Each one left a huge, distinct mark. Now, if you want to understand the secret sauce of how the Mughals managed to rule over such a massive, diverse place, you have to get this concept. Sol-e-Kul. This was Akbar the Great's brilliant idea. It literally means universal peace. And it wasn't just a nice thought, it was actual policy. He got rid of the special tax on non-Muslims. He married Hindu princesses. He promoted people in his government based on how good they were at their job, not what god they prayed to. It was a total game changer, and it's what held the whole incredible thing together. And of course, you can't talk about the Mughals without talking about this, the Taj Mahal. I mean, what is there to say? Commissioned by Shah Jahan, it's the ultimate symbol of the empire at its absolute peak. But it's so much more than just a stunningly beautiful tomb for his favorite wife. It was a statement of unbelievable wealth, of absolute power, and a testament to this perfect blend of Persian, Islamic, and Indian architectural styles. Just incredible. Okay, but this is where the story gets really interesting. And kind of complicated. Because with the next ruler, Aurangzeb, we see this huge paradox. On the one hand, he expands the empire to its absolute biggest point. The map never looked so good. But on the other hand, this success basically planted the seeds for its own collapse. All those decades of nonstop war just bled the treasury dry. And, critically, he reversed Akbar's policy of tolerance. He brought back the tax on non-Muslims, he tore down some Hindu temples, and that alienated a huge chunk of his own people, sparking rebellions. So the empire was at its biggest, for sure, but it was also stretched thin and starting to crack from the inside. Right, next up, from trade to dominion. Because after Aurangzeb died in 1707, things, well, they started to fall apart. The strong central control was gone, the empire began this long, slow slide downwards, and that created a huge power vacuum. And you know what happens with power vacuums, right? Someone always steps in to fill them. In this case, it was a new player from overseas. So what did this decline actually look like? Well, the empire basically fractured. It broke into pieces. You had a string of really weak emperors in Delhi who just couldn't keep a lid on things. And that's when you see these ambitious regional powers, like the Marathas and the Sikhs, stepping up. They started challenging the Mughals, carving out their own territories. The great Mughal giant was starting to seriously stumble. And you can really break down how it all unraveled into a few key steps. First, you get that power vacuum, right? The leadership in Delhi is weak. Then these regional powers rise up and start fighting amongst themselves. And into this chaos walks a trading company, the British East India Company. At first, they were just there for business, but they were smart. They saw the chaos and started playing the different Indian states off each other. They even had their own private army. After a huge victory in 1757, they slowly but surely went from being traders to being the real power in India, with the Mughal emperor becoming nothing more than a puppet. And that brings us to our final section, the last emperor. This is really the last tragic chapter of the whole story. It's about one final desperate shot at independence, with an old, frail emperor right at the center of it all. So fast forward to 1857. After decades of simmering anger against British rule, things finally exploded. Indian soldiers who were actually working for the British East India Company's army, they were called sepoys, they mutinied. And what did they do? They marched straight to Delhi. And in this incredibly powerful, symbolic move, they found the elderly Mughal emperor Babar Shah Zafar and declared him the leader of their rebellion. I mean, for a second there, for one dramatic moment, it really looked like the empire might just rise from the ashes. But it wasn't meant to be. The British response was swift, overwhelming, and honestly pretty brutal. After months of really intense fighting, the rebellion was completely crushed. And the emperor, well, he was more of a symbol than an actual leader in all this, but he was captured anyway. Just like that, the dream was over. And the fallout from the rebellion was fast and final. The British government stepped in, dissolved the East India Company, their job was done, and took direct control of India. That's the beginning of what's called the British Raj. As for the last emperor, Babar Shah Zafar, he was put on trial for treason and exiled to Burma, where he died pretty much unknown. And with that, after more than 300 years, the dynasty that Babar started was broken. The Mughal Empire was officially over. So that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Yeah, the Mughal Empire's gone, but its influence? It's literally everywhere in modern India. You see it in the architecture, you taste it in the food, you hear it in the language. Their legacy is alive in a million different ways across South Asia. And it really makes you think, right? Empires fall, governments change, but their echoes, they stick around. What parts of their legacy do you see today? And what other ghosts of the past are all around us, just hiding in plain sight?